Indeed, the saying, experience is the best teacher, is incomplete. The full statement of that Welsh adage is that experience is the best teacher for a fool. History is a kinder and gentler teacher. I was 10 years old when my friend in primary school, then Emeka, left school one afternoon. Our school was in the military compound at Yaba. He said his parents had decided to go back to the east. War was about to start. I never saw Emeka again. My auntie Bumi was married to a gentleman from Enugu, and I cannot now recall his name. But I recall the evening when my parents tried to persuade her and her husband not to leave. She did. We also never saw her again. And I recall distinctly how in 1967, passing in front of my home in Ikorodu Road almost every hour were trucks carrying passengers and furniture in an endless stream of vehicles heading east. Many Igbos who left various parts of Nigeria left friends, families, businesses, schools, and jobs. Like my friend and my auntie, some never returned. Many died. Many experienced the incredibly tragic ravages of war. The reasons for this tragic separation of brothers and sisters were deep and profound. So much has been said and written already about the whys and wherefores, and that analysis will probably never end. This is why I would rather not spend these few minutes on whether there was or was not sufficient justification for secession and the war that followed. The issue is whether the terrible suffering, the massive loss of lives, of hopes and fortunes of so many can ever be justified. As we reflect on this event today, we must ask ourselves the same questions that many who have fought or been victims in civil wars, wars between brothers and sisters, ask in moments of reflection. What if we had spent all the resources, the time, and the sacrifice that we put into the war, into trying to forge unity? What if we had decided not to avenge the wrong done to us? What if we had chosen to overcome evil with good? The truth is that the spilling of blood in dispute is hardly ever worth the losses. Of the fallouts of bitter wars is the anger that can so easily be rekindled by those who, for good or ill, want to resuscitate the fire. Today, some suggest that we must go back to ethnic nationalities, from those ethnic nationalities from which Nigeria was formed. They say that secession in one form or the other is the answer to the charges of marginalization. They argue that separation from the Nigerian state will ultimately result in successful smaller states. They argue eloquently, I might add, that Nigeria is a colonial contraption that cannot endure. This is also the sum and substance of the agitation for Biafra. The campaign is often bitter and vitriolic, and has sometimes degenerated to fatal violence. Brothers and sisters, permit me to differ and to suggest that we are greater together than apart. No country is perfect. Around the world, we have seen and continue to see the expressions of international discontent. Indeed, not many Nigerians seem to know that the oft-quoted line about Nigeria being, quote, a mere geographical expression, originally applied to Italy. It was the German statesman Clemens von Metternich who dismissively summed up Italy as a mere geographical expression, exactly a century before Nigeria came into being as a country. From Spain to Belgium, to the United Kingdom, and even the United States of America, you will find many today who will venture to make similar arguments about their countries, but they have remained together. The truth is that many, if not most nations of the world, are made up of different peoples and cultures and beliefs and religions who find themselves thrown together by circumstances. Nations are indeed made up of many nations. The most successful of the nations of the world are those who do not fall into the lure of separation, but who through thick and thin forge unity in diversity. Nigeria is no different. We're not one, we're not three, but more like 300 or so ethnic tribes within the same geographical space, presented with a great opportunity to combine all of our strengths into a nation that is truly, to borrow an expression, more than the sum of its parts. Let me say that there is a solid body of research that shows that groups that score high on diversity turn out to be more productive, more innovative than less diverse ones. There's also research showing that even companies that place a premium on creating diverse workplaces do better financially than those who do not. This applies to countries just as much as it does to countries. The United States is possibly a great example of bringing together an impressively diverse cast of people together to consistently accomplish world-conquering economic, military, and scientific feats. It is possible in Nigeria as well. Instead of trying to flee into the lazy comfort of homogeneity, every time we're faced with the frustrations of living together as countrymen and women, the more beneficial way for us, individually and collectively, is actually to apply the effort, the patience, to understand one another, and to progressively aspire to create one nation, which in the words of our anthem, is bound in freedom, in peace, and in unity. That, in a sense, should be the Nigerian dream. The enthusiasm to create a country that provides reasons for the citizens to believe in it. A country that does not discriminate or marginalize. We're not there yet, but I believe that we have a strong chance to advance in that direction. But that will not happen if we allow our frustrations and grievances to transmute into hatred. It will not happen if we see the media, television and radio, and print, and especially today social media, as platforms for the propagation of hate and divisive rhetoric. No one stands to benefit from a stance like that. We will all emerge as losers. Clearly our strength is in our diversity, and we are greater together than apart. Imagine for a moment that an enterprising young man from Aba had to apply for a visa to travel to Kano to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams. Or that a young woman from Abeokuta had to fill immigration forms and await a verdict in order to attend her best friend's wedding in Maya. Nigeria would be a much less colorful, much less interesting place were that the case. Our frustrations with some who speak a different dialect or belong to a different religion must not drive us to forget many of the same tribe and faith of those that we may see as adversaries, to whom we have shown affection and who have shown us true affection in return. My godson is Somkele Awakalu, his father Awakalu, senior advocate of Nigeria, and I taught at the University of Lagos. After that, when I was serving as advisor to the Attorney General of the Federation in 1988, I invited him to join me, and he and I served as advisors to Judge Bola Ajibola for 5 years. My first book was dedicated to Somkele and my 2 other godchildren. I did not have any children of my own then. Chief Emmanuel Dimike is almost 80 years old. He was my father's friend and business associate in my father's sawmills in Lagos. Chief has been like a father. I see him almost every Sunday. He worships with me at the chapel, at the Aso Villa Chapel. The individual, and he has remained here in Abuja, according to him, to make sure that I walk the straight and narrow. These affections and friendships that we forge, many even deeper than family ties, must remind us that unity is possible, that brotherhood across tribes and faiths is possible. Let me make it clear that I fully believe that Nigerians should exercise to the fullest extent the right to discuss or debate the terms of our existence. Debate and disagreement are fundamental aspects of democracy. We recognize and acknowledge that necessity, and today's event is along those lines, an opportunity not merely to commemorate the past, but also perhaps to dissect and debate it, to ask ourselves tough questions about the path that has led us here, and how we might transform yesterday's actions into tomorrow's wisdom. Indeed, our argument is not and will never be that we should simply forget the past, simply let bygones be bygones. Chinua Achebe repeatedly reminded us of the Igbo saying that a man cannot tell where the rain began to beat him, that a man who cannot tell where the rain began to beat him cannot know where he dried his body. If we lose the past, we will inevitably lose the opportunity to make the best of the present and the future. In an interview years ago, the late Dean Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, explaining why he didn't think a second Biafran war should happen, said, and I quote, "We should have learned from the first one, otherwise the deaths would have been to no avail. It would all have been in vain," end of quote. We should also be careful that we do not focus exclusively on the narrative of division at the expense of the uplifting and inspiring ones. The same social media that has come under so much censure for its propensity to propagate division has also allowed multitudes of young Nigerians to see more of the sights and sounds of their country than ever before. And for every young Nigerian who sees the internet as an avenue for spewing ethnic hatred, there is another young Nigerian who is falling in love or doing business across ethnic and cultural lines on the same internet. A young Nigerian who looks back on his or her NYSC year in unfamiliar territory as one of the valued highlights of their lifetime. These stories need to be told as well. These are the stories that remind us that the journey to nationhood is not an event but a process, filled as with life itself with experiences, some bitter, some sweet. The most remarkable attribute of that process is that a succeeding generation does not need to bear the prejudices and failures of the past. Every new generation can take a different and more ennobling route than its predecessors. But the greatest responsibility today lies on the leadership of our country, especially, but not only, political leadership. The promise of our Constitution, which we have sworn to uphold, is that we would ensure a secure and safe environment for our people to live and work in peace, that we will provide just and fair institutions, that we will not permit or encourage discrimination on the grounds of race, gender, beliefs, or other parochial considerations, that we will build a nation where no one is oppressed and where no one is left behind. These are the standards to which we must hold our leadership. We must not permit our leaders the easy but dangerous rhetoric of blaming our social and economic conditions on our coming together. It is their duty, and I speak to myself, our duty, to give us a vision, a pathway to make our unity in diversity even more